Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Performers Podcast. I'm your host, Thor Conklin, and today we have Shanna. Did I get that right? Shanna.
Yeah,
banana?
close enough.
Shanna. That's right. It rhymes with banana. Dickerson. After graduating college, you decided, well, let me back up for 1 second. Let me tell you what company she's the founder of, and that is Sky Luxury Concierge. Originated in St. John, but now, just before this interview started, learned that she is going worldwide, heading over to Fiji and Hawaii. If you have any travel plans in a beautiful destination, this is the woman that you're going to want to call. She has everything dialed in, from where to stay, where to go. And a matter of fact, one of your recent posts, where to find a gym, was it St. Thomas or St. John?
Well, St. John doesn't really have much. St. John doesn't have much. St. Thomas has a new gym that is right in Red Hook. So if you're staying on St. John, you could take the ferry over, which leaves on the hour every hour. And you could just take a short 2-block walk over, and then there's a great gym on St. Thomas.
See what I'm talking about? If you have questions about where you're going, this is the woman you want to call. Now, that's where she is right now. But I want to bring you up to speed of where she came from. And that is, graduated college, and then what do you do after college? You get a job in Nashville, Tennessee, and you're helping promote such bands as Stevie Nicks, Rolling Stones, Fleetwood Mac, Kenny Chesney, Jay-Z, The Police, Pearl Jam, Jimmy Buffett, Snoop Dogg. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Yeah. And then what I love is you get to the point you're like, you know what? I'm not having any fun doing this because this cannot be fun. So I'm going to sell all my possessions and I'm going to move to St. John's. Mm-hmm. You do that. And then lo and behold, you're like, wait a second, there's a pretty cool villa over there. And it turns out that it's Kenny's villa.
It's not Kenny's villa.
Okay.
But what it is Kenny is very good friends with the owner of that villa. And so I connected with Kenny for all the shows that I had produced of his over the years. He connected me to the owner of this villa. And then that's really how the company was born, was getting that job through Kenny Chesney. So that was a really wonderful connection.
I love it. You know, you have the life that I think everybody wants, you know, living on islands, traveling around. Your Facebook and Instagram posts are absolutely amazing. You know, most of us are working our entire adult life to get to the point where we can actually retire and enjoy life on the beach. You actually are enjoying life on the beach and structuring a business around it. Amazing. Mm-hmm. So
thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, and by the way, if you hear me refer to her as Wonder Woman throughout this this episode, that's her official nickname. You got to head over to Facebook and see her.
Look
at that. There you go.
I got guns.
All right. So coming direct, Thor and Wonder Woman. So give me a little bit, you know, everyone listening are peak performers. We've got mostly entrepreneurs that want to figure out how to get to the next level. And, you know, they always see what we're doing now, and they don't see what it takes to actually get to where we are. Mm-hmm. Bring us back a little bit. And what was it like selling all your possessions, moving to an island, and then just creating a business? And what did it take to actually start to get it off the ground? Because I remember, you know, the first year that I was doing consulting, for the first 6 months, we had a whopping $1,500 in revenue. You know, everybody thinks it just automatically just takes off, and it doesn't. I remember the team sitting there going, Thor, is this going to work? Look, this is my 6th company. No problem. This is the way it goes. I remember at night just going, this is actually a little slower than it normally takes. So bring us from that point where it was just getting started.
Yes. So, so my background, well, it has been for the last 15 years, but 10 years of it in Nashville, Tennessee, was producing major concerts, music festivals, and corporate events. And so after 10 years of the grind in that way, you know, the music business, it's hard to, you got to climb this corporate ladder. And I think it just, for me, it kind of lost its luster And I'd been traveling down to the Virgin Islands since I was a little girl, and just fell in love with it. Every time I would leave, oh, so sad. I just wanted to stay. And so in 2010, well, I'd been going down to the islands, the Virgin Islands, at least once a year. But in '09, I went 3 times that year with my parents. And I was starting to go, there's got to be a way I can figure out how to live here and start a business or make money. I don't know. But I was tired of being in Nashville, and I was tired of the music business. And so then in 2010, in April is when I ended up moving down to St. John. But I made the decision to sell everything, and I downsized into about 3 suitcases and grabbed at the time, my yellow lab Dakota was 10 years old. And we just flew down on a one-way ticket, and I went into this. It was called the Peter Bay Beach House on St. John, and it was this $10 million estate, and it was right on the water, private white sandy beach, rented for $20,000 a week. And my job was property manager and concierge. I lived on the property for free. I didn't have any bills, but I also didn't have any money, because I spent the remaining money that I had. Believe it or not, it took a lot of money to relocate down to the Virgin Islands. So I spent my remaining money and started over at 30 years old with basically nothing to my name, an amazing place to live, but also a job that didn't really pay me any money because it was a trade deal. And so I had to take a job at a little local jewelry store, making like $12 an hour or something, just so that I could eat, put gas in my car, and have some money to go out and meet people. And so it really kind of it started that way. And at the beginning, I was just shopping groceries for the house. I was doing a lot of other things as guests were coming in, but how I was making some money is I was shopping a grocery list for the guests that were coming into the beach house. And I'd make basically like $100 or, a couple $100. And so really the business just started by, I had 1 villa, then I got 4 villas. And then it was within like 2 years, it was January of 2012. I'll never forget. I got a call from a very large villa management company. They're one of the largest in the world. And said, hey, our clients, they booked a villa with us, but you did provisioning for them, and you did such an amazing job, and you were so good to them. And, any item that was, if it was forgotten, you went right to the store and corrected it. And we'd like to give you all of our business. And we have 400 villas between St. John and St. Thomas.
Wow.
And yeah, so that's when it was like, oh my gosh. And they said, we'd like to do an exclusive with you. Is that something you'd be interested in? And I said, absolutely, yes. I said, but I need about a month. If I can do it for less, I'll let you know. But I need about a month to create an online shopping cart, and then make it so the clients, so it's easier. They can log on to Blue Sky. They can go to the shopping cart, fill it up, put in their information of when they land, and then we can do it that way. So that's really honestly how the company started. It was a grocery delivery company for St. John.
Interesting. And how did things progress? You start off doing one thing, then it turns into another, and you serve a very elite clientele. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that wealthy clients expect that sometimes other clients would not expect? What are the different things that they're after? Because I think it's an important distinction, because we have people listening that are targeting a particular group, and each group thinks a little bit differently. What do you need to do targeting the elite, or at least wealthy?
Right. Well, first of all, it's be available most all of the time, and be quick in responding. I am a stateside person. I wasn't born in the islands, and island time, we don't, stateside people don't have island time. And so they can get very frustrated in dealing with some local companies in the Caribbean or, in places that are kind of island time like that, because things aren't dealt with quick enough. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've done so well, is because it's a 7-day-a-week business. And if we happen to have a flight or have something to where a client doesn't board or whatever, and let's say it's still 2 a.m., well, the phone stays on till 2 a.m. until we know that the client is secure and where they are. And, there's special requests of, fantastic wine and all of the little things to make them feel at home or that they want to splurge on while they're on vacation.
What was one of the most unusual requests?
One of the most unusual requests. Oh gosh. I don't think there's anything too odd. I mean, we've had.
Nobody said they wanted a 1940 bottle of Bordeaux flown in from France.
We did get a request for like 12 cases of, it was the champagne I can't remember the name of it. It was so incredibly like the nicest champagne that you could possibly get. So we had to do a mad goose chase to find that. And we didn't end up getting that. We have requests of flying pets down. That's becoming more common. And so it's just kind of more things like that. No one is totally, completely out of control, to where it's like, I had more of that in the music business. less of it in the travel concierge business.
I can't believe that with clients such as Snoop Dogg and Jay-Z.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was, I'll tell you one interesting story is Jay-Z, I produced him years ago at Vanderbilt University. And one of the things on his rider was that every single thing in his dressing room had to be black. Everything. Okay, so we're going, no problem. Black couch, black this, black everything. And then the tour manager walks in at like 4 o'clock for a walkthrough before he arrives. And he goes, well, not everything is black. And I said, well, what else? Everything in here is black. What else do you want that's black? He said, well, the walls aren't black. I said, but we're at Vanderbilt University and you can't paint the walls black. He goes, well, then you need to pipe and drape them. So we had to get on the phone with our local party vendor and we had to say, okay, hustle it up, bring, pipe and drape to cover a massive room. And then he was probably in that room for about 30 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
I had Drake one time say in our meeting before he walked on stage from the tour bus to the stage that no one was allowed to look at him.
When I do speaking tours, I have a lot of those same demands in my contract. I don't get booked very often, but I have the demands in my contracts like that.
Yes, I know. I do too. As I get more famous, I add things like that. Don't look at me.
Don't look
so
at
funny.
That's hilarious.
So more ridiculous stuff on that end than it has been on the luxury travel side, I think.
I always I get a lot of questions from young entrepreneurs just starting out, and they're like, Thor, what's if you had just one bit of advice, what would you tell young entrepreneurs that are just starting? And it's real simple. I figured this out years ago, and that is that your job or whatever you're doing is going to make you a living. Your network is going to make you a fortune. Make sure that you surround yourself with people that you can assist and that maybe one day can assist you, but really nurture that network. You've been fortunate enough to be around some very powerful people in the music industry. You have clients that come and rent these villas. How important has it been being around that circle of influence? How have they helped you?
Oh, huge. Absolutely huge. And I would say, always ask for what you want. And people are so scared to do that. And the worst answer you're going to get is no, or you're going to get ignored. And if you feel so strongly about it, go at someone again and explain why you're going at it again and asking for the second time. And, I do this quite a lot. I searched for Richard Branson's email address for a good 7 years. And, I'm down on St. John. He is, 2 hours away by boat at Necker Island and the BVI. And finally, after asking enough of my contacts, a friend of mine goes, oh, yeah, well, my best friend has been best friends with them since like the late 70s. And he's like, let's call him right now. So we get not Branson, but we get his Branson's friend on the phone. And he said, yeah, I'd be happy to send an email to Richard. So write me the email, to him, and I'll forward it to him. And so I couldn't believe it. So I sent Richard an email, and within 48 hours, he responded and he hired me for what I asked to be hired for. And to this day, we email, and he's a wonderful sounding board. And I send business ideas that I have to him. And so you never know.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you and I are both in the same group, which is, that's actually how we met, EPX.
Yeah.
And that group is loaded with a bunch of people that know Richard. So it's like, you're not that far away. I always say, spend whatever time you can around amazing groups of people. Figure out what you can provide, what you can give. And people are more than willing to just give back.
Yeah, absolutely. And how I met Paul was at the bar at Necker Island, producing an event called the Necker Cup, which was around tennis. And Paul's sitting next to me at the bar, and someone comes up and says, "Hey, Paul's forming this like concierge event type business, and Shanna, you already own one, so the two of y'all should talk." And then I was one of his first hires at Epic to put all these trips together.
I didn't know that.
That's how that started. So Necker Island, it draws in, this incredible tribe of people. And it's been a really amazing ride, really, just meeting all of them. I mean, Greg Norman has become an amazing friend, and, I go to him with a lot of business ideas, or if I need business advice. He's grown almost $1 billion business with, the Shark, and I played tennis with him and Richard when I was there. And so it's been incredible. And I would say the other thing you asked about, what young entrepreneurs starting out, I would say one of the biggest things too is I have failed and fallen on my face so many times as an entrepreneur in the way little things, the way you take in money, the way you, like 1,000 things. I mean, the hurricanes destroyed my company. I thought it was done. But if you brush yourself off and keep going and figure it out, you will prevail. And that's just what I kept doing. So I think that's a really important one, is a lot of people get discouraged and they quit.
Yeah. Failure is just part of the process. My first company, I lost a third of my team on 9/11. Brand new company.
Wow.
The team gone, 9/11. You just got to figure out how to recover. I started this funny story. I started profitability consulting after I bankrupted the company. They're like, "How'd you get into profitability consulting?" I'm like, "I bankrupted the company." They're like, "Well, then why would you be good at profitability?" Because I learned everything not to do.
Exactly right.
Success doesn't give us, an education. What do we, when we succeed, what do we do? It's like, yeah, we got this, right? You don't learn anything. It's when you get your nose bashed in.
It is. No, you're absolutely right. Branson has a quote, which I've been living by this quote for a long time before I even knew that he said it or before I read it. And the quote is, when someone hands you an amazing opportunity and you don't know how to do it, you say yes, and then you figure it out later.
Yeah.
And I think when I got offered the role to go on the road and tour manage for the artist Steve Winwood, I was 25 years old. I had no idea how to tour manage. I'm in the business. I had a lot of friends that did it, but I was a production manager for a concert promoter. So I was in Nashville at the villa, at the venue, and dealing with all, running backstage, but I wasn't a tour manager on the road. And so I just, yes, I can do it. Yep, I'll take the job. And then I was like, oh my God, how do I do this? And I figured it out. And it was one of the best opportunities I had in my entire life. But I was terrified, but I said yes.
Yeah. It's like this podcast. I mean, it originally started as a podcast. Now it goes out on YouTube with video as well. And when we first started, I had no idea. No idea. I went to John Lee Dumas's podcast beginner guide, got the equipment, and then published what was probably the worst podcast in the history of the universe as #1. And I look back or listen back to it. Thankfully, it wasn't even on video. And it's like, it's horrible. And I think that's keeps so many entrepreneurs back, right? They say they don't know how to do it. And then I'm not going to be good at it. You're right. Yep. You're going to suck at it in the beginning. Exactly. It's okay. We all suck at it in the beginning. Just get better.
Yeah, and you're going to fall on your face multiple times.
Absolutely.
Keep going. Keep going. Because, when the storms destroyed my company, part of me goes, all right, this is over. I mean, this is many years until these islands fully recover, and you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so it was probably the closest I had come to I don't want to say quitting, but really just kind of going, I don't really know that I see an out of this. But I kept going, and I kept bouncing on opportunities that were coming along, and kept following them, and started another business because of it. And so you never know.
Yeah, let's go to details there. So, the hurricanes come through, they wipe out the tourist business. So you're like, all right, wait a second, everything's devastated. Builders are going to have to come back in and start rebuilding the islands. Maybe they're going to need a place to stay. And you formed an entire different company built out of chaos and destruction to house workers to rebuild the islands. Brilliant.
Yeah, it was amazing. They so when the storms hit, the business was very much focused in the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands, booking villas, booking sailing catamarans, mega yachts, and then planning, the vacation start to finish and all of that. Now, at the time, yes, we had, I had been to the Bahamas. I knew the Bahamas decently well, but it was a business very concentrated in the Virgin Islands. And so when the storms came through and absolutely destroyed all of them, I mean, there wasn't an island in the BVI or the USVI that was untouched. It was, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I thought I had done well by expanding out of St. John. You never think that when you're now in so many islands, just in the US and British Virgin Islands, that not only one Cat 5, but 14 days later, 2 Cat 5s are going to come and just take everything out.
Yeah.
I thought I was being really smart about that, and I couldn't believe it. So anyway, so then I kind of go, well, what am I going to do now? And so I decided to take some money that I had in savings and say, all right, I'm going to grow the company to the islands that make sense for my clientele, that were untouched by the storms. And I'm going to put everything I have into growing this company. And if it doesn't work at the end of that, then I gave it my all. And I had a couple of job opportunities come my way during this time. So I was like, okay, it sounds like I get something to fall back on if this doesn't work. And then I just started expanding Antigua, Nevis, not that, well, I've already been to Nevis, but Turks and Caicos and St. Lucia and Belize and Costa Rica. And it was a massive expansion, super fast, and it was like a whirlwind. I created so many contacts, so many partnerships, expanded so fast, and it started to take off, thankfully, because clients go, well, where do we go now that the Virgin Islands is so hard?
Yeah.
So thankfully that worked. But then on the other side of the coin, all of these FEMA was, or the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico was awarded $1.8 billion in recovery money. And so all of these construction companies started to come down to thousands and thousands and thousands of workers started coming down to the territory. And so many of the hotels were destroyed. They were coming to companies like me and saying, well, can you help us with housing? So I jumped right in. I said, absolutely. So right now I'm with the help of, I have partnerships down there, but we're housing about 800 construction workers, supervisors, CEOs between the islands of St. Thomas and St. Croix. And it's been incredible. It's awesome to be able to help the territory come back, because you're really able to get back and house these workers. And it's been an amazing experience to meet all these companies. And then some of these CEOs are going, well, okay, well, when we have a second to have a vacation, can we come to you and can you help us with a family vacation? And so it's been really incredible.
Yeah. Amazing. I have story after story of clients that their primary business goes through some sort of shift and they think it's all over. And then only to find that the rebirth or the pivot from that first business to the second business opens up all kinds of doors. And generally the second business becomes much more profitable than the first one. And they thought, it's all done. It's over. I can't move on. And then all of a sudden they're like, wow, this all came as a result of that.
No, it's really great because the second business does very well, and I'm able to funnel a lot of money from the second business into growing the first business. And that's everything from, a ton of money into the websites, online brochures for our villas, being able to fly to Fiji and be able to expand to 2 more private islands over there. And this Fiji, Hawaii is a 3-week trip. So to be able to have those opportunities. So one company is truly growing the other company, and it's a pretty awesome thing.
Great job on your social media presence as well.
Okay.
I think you do an amazing job. The one thing that I just keep asking myself, do you have a professional photographer following you everywhere you go?
No.
How do you get all those great shots? Like I can get a selfie, but you're like kind of running down the beach, or you're in the water. It's like, how do I get all that social media stuff done, all that content done? Do you have like a remote in your hand or something?
No. Some of it is just the phone on a timer. If it works out that way, if I'm at a villa, to be able to capture myself in the distance with a sunset shot or something.
Okay.
Sometimes there are local photographers that reach out to me that see that I'm in the area and ask if I would want to work with them. I'll look at their feed and see if their vibe and what I'm doing match up. That happened in St. Lucia with a couple photographers. They were so fantastic. You know that shot I sent you where I look like I'm swimming with a marlin in the pool? Did you see that one?
Yes.
Okay, so that was a professional photographer from St. Lucia.
Okay.
And it's great because I do love when that happens, because then I'm able to tag them. And if I have any inquiries about, a wedding or a honeymoon for St. Lucia and they want a great photographer, then I can use these people. So sometimes it works out that way, but a lot of times I'm also with these they're called fam trips, familiarizing trips to islands. A lot of them you travel alone. You go and either meet other travel agents, and you don't always have someone there to take a picture, so you got to get creative.
Well, it looks like you have a professional crew following you everywhere you go. So well
it would
done.
make life a lot easier. So sponsor that wants to come
next on the bucket list. Matt, we could keep going on and on, but I want to close with, I know that during the hurricanes that came through the islands, really caused havoc not only with the human population but also pets. And I know something that's very close to your heart, and that's the pet rescue that you're involved with. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when the storms hit, one of the first places that I went to try to get these workers up and running is Puerto Rico. So I went and lived in Puerto Rico for about a month, and that's where I started first with helping the workers find housing. So I drove from one side of Puerto Rico to the other at least 3 times. I mean, I was all over that island. And I was absolutely devastated by the number of homeless animals that are on that island. So when the storms hit, I heard it was about 300,000 people that evacuated, and no one was allowed to bring their pets. So unfortunately, they all ended up on the streets. And it's an estimated 1.3 million animals are running wild on the streets in Puerto Rico right now. And it's a very hard thing to see. So while I was there, I was, you see dogs everywhere, and they're very friendly because,
they're pets.
Someone's pet.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they're coming up to you and they want food and they're scratching, and you can just, they're sick. And so I was at this Mexican restaurant, and there was this very, very, like almost on his deathbed chocolate lab that was, I didn't know how old. I mean, maybe 13, 14, something like that. But he was so malnourished. He was easily 15 pounds underweight, wouldn't get up off the floor. It broke my heart. I'm an all dog lover, but I had a yellow lab for 17 years, Dakota. And so when I saw this, my heart just broke. And I immediately ordered some grilled chicken. And I'm watching all these people step over this dog with all of their leftovers and not even offer anything. So I immediately ordered him some grilled chicken. And he wouldn't even get up and come to my table. I had to go bring it to him. And he's just laying on the floor. So he scarfs that down. Then I got my meal, and there was some more chicken in it. So I'm like crying at this point. And so I just take the chicken out and I go feed him more chicken, and I come back and I sit at my table. And then he gets up with the strength that he has left, and he comes and he lays at my feet.
Oh.
I was like, oh my God. I mean, I'm bawling at this point. And so I'm loving all over him. He's so dirty. No one had probably touched him in so long. And so then I said, okay, I left there and I immediately called this girl. Her name is Jill, and Jill runs Kenny Chesney's tour. She is his right-hand woman. She does everything. And she is a huge animal lover. She has helped her and Kenny, their organization has helped rescue over 1,000 shelter animals in the USVI. And so I immediately call her and I say, I need help getting this dog I'll find a forever home in the state if you will help me get a flight and help me get this dog out of here. So long story short, I had to take him to the vet. It was a massive $2,000 vet bill. And I paid for it. And then it ended up being a huge runaround. Finally, the consensus was he was stage 3 heartworm, and he wasn't in good enough health to travel on a plane underneath the plane, because I was able to get him a free ticket through Jill. And they said, unless he can go private, he probably won't make the flight. He's just that sick. So I happened to know a guy with a private plane who was coming down to St. Thomas and was leaving a couple days later. And he's a huge animal lover and he's friends with Kenny. And he said, absolutely, you can bring him along. We can get him to Gulf Shores, Alabama. And when the plane lands, y'all can you do what you need to from there. But I could at least get him to Gulf Shores. So we did that. We boarded one plane from Little Puddle Jumper from from Puerto Rico to St. Thomas. We spent the night. We got up the next day. We got on this Gulfstream or whatever beautiful private jet this was, and flew to Gulf Shores, Alabama. We spent the night. I rented an SUV and then drove us 9 hours straight to Charleston, South Carolina, where I ended up finding him a forever home where he lived the most amazing 6 months of his life before he passed away. And so we named him Rico Suave. And Rico after Puerto Rico, and then Suave because he's just a suave man. He was just so awesome. And so through that process of doing all of that, I met some really incredible women. And one of them is now the owner of Canitas, which is the largest animal sanctuary in Puerto Rico. It's 33 acres. And they asked me to be on the board. And I said, absolutely, heck yeah, let's do it. And so now what I'm just trying to do is maybe put on a concert, since that's my background, in Nashville, Tennessee, do a music festival, find people who care and want to donate money as well to Canitas and get it back up and running, because it was extremely destroyed from the storms. So it's Rico Suave that led me to this whole thing, which then in return will end up helping thousands and thousands, and hopefully get all 1.3 million animals off the street. But you got to take it a day at a time because it's a lot.
That is an amazing story.
Mm-hmm.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks.
Big heart. Tell the audience how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so the website is blueskyconcierge.com. It's BLUESKY concierge.com. And then through there is, if you want to reach out via email, you can. Cell phone numbers are on there as well. And also, Instagram is Blue Sky Luxury Concierge. And then we're all over Facebook by the same name as well. So we're on a lot of different social media outlets. Well,
thank you for coming on today. You're an amazing woman, and have fun. Your trip to Hawaii and Fiji is going to be amazing. I absolutely know it. So
yes, well, everyone can follow along. It'll be pictures and pictures galore. So I'm so excited to share these travels with everyone.
We look forward to seeing them. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.